Welcome back to r/JustNoHOA, where people share stories about their crazy homeowner associations that make us feel better about not living in an HOA. And in case you are new around here, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to join our awesome community. Without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. The first one is titled HOA Karen Gets Arrested for Vandalism and Loses Her Presidency. So, I recently moved my family into a new neighborhood that seemed to be the perfect fit. It was close to work, in our price range, and had a good school district for our kids. What I didn't know at the time was that our next door neighbor was the president of the HOA and was known for being a little crazy, as the first instance of her having a problem with us came the same day that we were moving our things into the home. I thought that she was just coming to say a friendly hello as our neighbor, but things soon turned a little crazy. Karen: "Oh, hello, are you the new neighbors?" Me: "Yes, my name is XYZ. It is nice to meet you." Karen: "I just came to let you know that I'm the president of the homeowner association and wanted to tell you that your lawn is a bit overgrown, and if you don't handle that soon, you will need to pay the fine for that and drop it off in my mailbox along with your member fees." Now, when I bought the house, I looked over all the paperwork very carefully and know for a fact that the HOA here is not mandatory to join, and I didn't have any plans to. I truly believe someone's home is their own business, but I didn't want to start a fight right off the bat. Me? Well, we just got here, so it might take a few days to find some time to get the lawn taken care of. Also, I don't have any interest in joining the HOA here. Thank you, though. Karen: "You must have made a mistake. I will be expecting your dues in my mailbox." She walked off and I was left there confused as to what just happened. I know that it wasn't mandatory because I've been part of a mandatory HOA neighborhood before, and those fees came directly out of my mortgage. I may be wrong, but I never heard of writing the president a personal check for HOA fees. I did not hear much from Karen for a while and started to settle into our new home. For those curious, I did mow the lawn later that week since I hate having overgrowth. And also I hired a landscaper to plant flowers and a few bushes that really turned the new land into a home. I told my wife what the Karen told me and suggested that she try to avoid her. As our final piece of the home, we got a nice new mailbox which we let our two daughters decorate. It was covered in painted flowers and rainbows, which many people complimented. Karen, however, was not having any of it and stormed back up to me later that day. Karen: "That monstrosity in front of your home is completely unacceptable, and I demand that it be taken down and replaced with a standard one." Me: "Karen, that is my mailbox and nobody else has a problem with it. It is within all the guidelines and I love what my daughters did with it." Karen: "Well then, I'm just going to have to send you a fine for it. You will have to give me $200 if you don't remove it from your property. Plus, you still owe me your member fees unless you want a lien on your house." She gives me a smug look that tells me she is used to threatening people to get her way. I am not the person that rolls over though. Me: "I'm not giving you a single cent. The mailbox does not violate any rules and the HOA here is optional. If you keep harassing me about giving you money though, you can be sure to find a lawsuit in your mailbox instead for extortion." Karen looks completely shocked, like nobody has ever challenged her before. I doubt that I could have sued her for extortion, but I honestly just wanted her to leave me alone. I thought it was over, but that night is when she thought she would try to get even with me. Now, I installed security cameras onto my house due to our last one getting broken into. It makes all of us sleep a little safer at night. They are not easy to spot though, so Karen did not know that they existed. That morning I walked outside to see that our mailbox was destroyed and all of the flowers I had planted were ripped out of the earth. Of course, Karen was standing in her lawn looking fake shocked at the damages. Karen: "Oh no, what a shame. I would offer to help you, but the HOA can only aid other members in instances like this." Me: "That's alright, I have cameras so I can just send the video to the police and have the person arrested for vandalism. Plus I think destruction of a mailbox is a federal crime." Now it's my turn to smile as I see her face go pale and her run back into her house. I go and check the cameras to find that it was indeed her that destroyed the mailbox with a bat and ripped up my flowers. I was ready to take my revenge and right away showed the tape to the police. I also decided to tell them that she was trying to force people to pay HOA fees and fines and direct checks made out to her. This seemed to pique their interest quite a lot. I still did not feel satisfied, so as soon as I made sure that it was legally okay for me to do so, I posted the video onto the official HOA website. Now the entire neighborhood saw the damage that she did and her name was dragged through the mud. Turns out some people that did fall for her scheme were now coming forward and demanding the money back that she tricked out of them. Now the police were still looking into her, but in the meantime an HOA meeting was called and she had no choice but to stand in front of a bunch of angry neighbors. Karen: "I'm the president of the HOA and there is not anything you can do about it. I could fine all of you for disturbing the peace right now." Me: "Actually, there is something they can do. Since this is not a mandatory HOA, if 80% of the members agree to abolish it, then the HOA goes away." Karen: You are not even a member. Get out of here right now." I complied, knowing that the seeds were planted. It didn't take long for me to find out that they took my advice and she lost her position of power and could not stop people from enjoying their lives anymore. Honestly, I think the whole block looked better now that people could do what they wanted without worrying of suffering the wrath of this Karen and her fines. She avoided eye contact with me right up until her day in court, where she was found guilty on multiple charges. It turned out to nobody's surprise that she was cashing the checks into her personal account instead of putting it towards the HOA. While I was hoping that the destruction of my mailbox would have put her in jail, what can I say, I don't like being messed with, she only got, ironically, fined. She ended up owing so much money in fraud that she couldn't afford her house anymore and was forced to move. If she had just accepted when people told her no, then she would have probably still been getting away with all of this. She probably thought that by destroying my property, she intimidated me enough into giving her money. What she did not realize was how vengeful I was and that I was going to get my revenge on her. As for my family, we are still living in that house and never had another problem with neighbors after that. Most of them were happy that my revenge ended with the HOA being dissolved. I don't know if Karen ended up paying everyone back or if she ended up moving to another town to try and pull the same scam again. And ripe stars, if you have ever lived in an HOA and had positive or negative experiences, then please feel free to share them in the comments. In addition, I would really appreciate it if you could like the video, and it would be absolutely amazing if we once again reach 1000 plus likes on the video, as that would help me tremendously. Thank you so much in advance. The next one is titled, "Do you want a pretty lawn or for me to follow your rules?" I live in a small town with various rules about the state of one's yard. My yard is rather sizable and I have a push mower. I have divided the yard into 3 major areas: the apple tree, a 50 by 45 feet downhill area with an old apple tree in the center and thick forest on 2 sides. The front, the obvious one, between the house and the road, 85 by 35 feet space and mostly flat. Then there is the north field, a very uneven area with several trees that is 50 by 100 feet with that same thick forest mentioned above across the far side. This is important for later. Now the town likes to remind me about keeping it short and neat at the threat of a $100 fine, demanding it be cut weekly despite the weather aside from winter. These demands were borderline harassment, constantly sending people to check on if it's been cut and how much of it was done, even manually putting letters of notice in my mailbox. I have back problems involving nerve damage that prevents me from standing too long, so getting it all in one go is difficult. So I would split the work into several days. They did not like this and demanded it be done in a single day or take the fine. I was checking into it, and renting a riding mower or paying someone else to do it would still result in $100. So no matter how I handle it, I am still out the $100. So I just risked it and kept splitting the work into 2 days and now rarely 3. The town council started sending me pictures of what needs cut and even added another 80-foot stretch of the forest to that list. Absolutely absurd. Angry at the extra workload when I was already having trouble keeping up with their demands, I made one of my own. I wanted the city to send out the city planning coordinator to show me where my property line was and what exactly was my responsibility. I was positive that they were hounding me about something that was not even mine. He brought out maps and measurement tools and showed me a 200 by 100 feet space and marked it out. This outlined the front and the north field, including the added space. I learned after it was pointed out in the pictures that I've been cutting the apple tree area for 7 years for nothing. It was not in the images and was outside the property line. Order up, 1 serving of malicious compliance incoming. Instead of devoting time to dealing with the hill of the apple tree, I focused more on the north field. So now the city, and anyone getting off the highway, gets to see a horribly overgrown plot with a dead tree first thing, whereas the part no one can see is neat and tidy. As for the extra 80-foot space of the forest, the property behind us had been keeping it up, and it is just 3 simple passes, but they understand as much as we do that the forest takes what the forest wants. This added space won't last long though. I let this go all summer and they only harassed me about it one more time since I started ignoring the apple tree area. We had also recently found out this was not all on behalf of the whole city council, but one angry member who doesn't like my landlord and thought annoying us about it would annoy him. Update: this blew up overnight and I had no idea it would. To cover a lot of what has been said, I cannot take legal actions as I have no solid proof other than hearsay about the beef between the landlord and this council member. I do plan to start a push for their removal, however, if it was the actions of this one person being petty. The property is a rental that I have no intentions of attempting to gain ownership of. Lastly, no one really asked, but I find it entertaining that the apple tree area has sat uncut for over a month, untouched by both myself and the town. The forest can have it. And ripe stars, I would once again like to remind you, if you have any interesting revenge or malicious compliance story, or anything else really, but those are especially appreciated nowadays, then please don't forget to post your own story on r/ripe stories on Reddit if you want me to read it in a video. And the next one is titled, "Tell us not to call the cops and then fire me for calling security. Thanks for the paid 1 year plus vacation, better benefits and far higher pay rate." So this happened almost X years ago and it just now came to full fruition. I am omitting and or changing some info, especially stuff that could link me to the businesses involved, but the main story and eventual revenge will remain intact, albeit changed a little bit. The entities and or people involved: number 1, Abbey, larger store; 2, B, franchise inside Abbey; number 3, D, problematic employee of B; and C, co-worker. Rewind almost X years ago, I am still employed at B's within another larger, more successful store, Abbey, and almost at my 7-year mark with 0 disciplinary marks or unexcused absences, etc. I was pretty well known in the larger store's management and would often resolve issues that stemmed from B being within their store that our current management would fail at or ignore. The work environment grew over my employment at B's to be toxic due to little oversight or follow-through from an overworked management team. It was the standard BS a lot of places do, try to dish more responsibilities off to hard workers with promises and or low pay increases while the crap of the lot go away with whatever. Unless you flat out stole, you could F off for most of your shift while the few loyal others worked and while still getting paid with little to no consequences. Well, this grew to a head, and one day a new employee called D, who was hardly ever sober when clocked in, caused a scene which resulted in me intervening, which resulted in them physically threatening me numerous times in a very aggressive manner, all on video by the way. So, a co-worker, C, while witnessing this, called management of B, who flat out told them to not call police despite there being threats of violence, but rather call security within Abbey, highly illegal in my parts, but we will get to that later. So, I called security. This whole ordeal resulted in Abby's head of security watching the video and then immediately calling police and searching for D to eject from them from the store and or possibly arrest, completely circumventing B's management. Well, turns out D already fled, so they couldn't eject them from the store, question or even get their side of the story. Abby thanked me for my cooperation with statements, info, etc., and I then called my management at B's and informed them of what happened, gave them a real piece of my mind pertaining to the toxic environment, no cussing, and then told them I would be clocking out for the rest of my shift due to distress caused by their continued negligence. They agreed that that would be best, and then I left. I was then informed the next day by phone from B that I was being terminated. I calmly said I understood and requested in writing why my employment was being terminated via mail or email. They agreed and I said thank you and hung up. This caused quite a stir within Abby's, and they expressed how upset and confused they were on how I was being treated to B. Well, the next day I get that email from B and it says I was being fired for calling security and contributing to a dangerous situation. Okay, cool, you want to play it that way? Fine. I got right to work getting my ducks in line for the eventual appeal I knew they would file against my initial unemployment claim. Witnesses, pictures, events I had catalogued, etc., the whole shebang. The day comes when the judiciary calls me and I plead my side of the case. After a long phone call where I meticulously laid out how disorganized and toxic my work environment was over the course of my employment, and got information on how to submit evidence, etc., I thanked the agent and we ended the call. About 3 weeks later, I get a letter from the local government saying that they ruled in my favor. This was incredible but nerve-wracking to say the least. I knew B would file their last right to another appeal, and this time I would have to do actual court, but on the other hand, this means since there was still a full-blown pandemic going on, I got effed up front from past due UI payments and much more money a week going forward than I ever received at a job in my life. But B did eventually file their right to a second appeal. The day of court arrives, and due to the even worse state of the pandemic now, it is held over the phone. The judiciary asks me if I want my witnesses to be present during me and B's questioning, back and forth, etc. I said no, because I believed their testimony would be the same regardless, and the trial went on. Well, surprise surprise, turns out whatever overworked employee B put in charge of submitting their evidence dropped the ball and zero info was sent to the local government or sent to the wrong branch. B's representative states that they have the evidence on their computer and can send it right now. The judge informs them that that would be illegal and they were required to send in any evidence 2 weeks ago. The judge then really goes at them for obviously not being familiar with the conditions and laws pertaining to this trial, that it was their responsibility to inform themselves or, you know, actually read the paperwork they sent, explicitly stating them. At this moment I was air fisting while this was going on and muting my phone so they didn't hear Peggy Hill like, "Oh yeah!" So with their evidence being non-existent and my witnesses being very much real and pissed off, the trial pretty much went in my favor and B/their rep. They continued to act pretty entitled, annoyed and unaware/unapologetic of their ignorance of local laws, like telling an employee who feels scared for their physical safety to not call 911. I don't think B's rep once said thank you, you're welcome, your honor, sir, or ma'am, etc. the entire trial. Well, time comes and my witnesses did even more than I thought. They shed light on situations I was not even privy to and even corroborated a lot of what I presented and more. My favorite part was when the judge asked, "They told you not to call the police?" and the subsequent frustration from the judge after the witnesses confirmed. The trial ends and we are informed the ruling will be mailed to each of us in another 3 weeks. So 3 weeks pass and I get a large letter informing me that again I won the appeal, and it even went on to explain in detail the laws that my employer was ignorant of, ignored or refused to comply with, which was even more than my initial research and testimony showed. I finally felt relief and got to enjoy the rest of my vacation or paid mental health sabbatical with enough money to pursue other avenues of work at my leisure, with no worries of retribution or having to pay the local government back. This ended up with me eventually taking on far less hours at much higher pay rate in a different field I've had my eye on, which has raised my quality of life so damn much. Fast forward to now, Abby has bought out B and took over the majority control due to B's inability to generate revenue with a continual revolving employee/management door. Herder, I wonder why. And has extended an offer for my original job, title, etc. back with a substantial pay increase and benefits package, with far less hours to commit to, and with an in-writing statement saying that if in the future I want a full-time contract with even better pay and benefits than my current offer, they are fully prepared to sign me on and I would be thrilled if I choose to cross that bridge, etc. The real cherry on top is that B failed to disconnect me from some groups among other things after firing me, so they got to see my new job announcement and my old co-workers and new management from Abby excitement around it, and there is nothing they can do about it. Oh, and I framed that last letter detailing my final victory. I don't usually get to win much in life, but now I got a reminder of a W hanging on the wall. And ripe stars, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you still cannot get enough of my content, then I would highly suggest to check out my endless binge watch playlist, which will soon show up in the left corner of the screen. In addition, I would really appreciate it if you could not only subscribe to the channel but also turn on the bell notifications, which you can do by clicking on the little bell icon right next to the subscribe button. This will help my channel tremendously, and this will make sure that you don't miss any of my videos. Furthermore, if you want to see additional ripe content that I don't post on YouTube, then I would suggest to head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more than 50 exclusive videos that you will not see anywhere else. Thank you so much for your amazing daily support, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.